And in fact, yesterday I was on LinkedIn and I was in the Learning Center,
Uh-huh.
and I was looking at like some of the most popular kind of classes within LinkedIn. And one of them was around how to present to the
Mm,
C-suite, how
mm,
to talk to senior leaders. And I
mhm.
was wondering if you can kind of talk with us about maybe some advice you'd give to young data scientists or people just entering business who have never done it before, don't feel comfortable
Mhm.
talking to the C-suite.
Yeah.
And I wonder if you can kind of just share just some personal insights on that.
Yeah, and these are insights I've learned from a lot of mentors over the year, and just learn from mistakes, and I think that's really a lot of it too, where you don't join a company in the first day and then start talking to executives, so it's a process, and to me the having that mentor is super important. Being able to have someone who might be one or two levels above you, and and just practicing presenting to them, just and having them give you candid feedback on what works and
Mm,
what doesn't, because an executive thinks on a whole different plane than how I think, and so I'm thinking about various things. I have my own little world, but they're looking at things at the group level, at the company level, at the industry level, and they're getting so much more context. So where I might be thinking, oh, I need to explain this, or I need to go into detail about this, they're not interested in that. Or I'm trying to present my little piece of the picture, but it doesn't fit into their
mm,
overall picture of what's going on. And a lot of it is just figuring out over time what's important to them. And the way to figure out what's important to them is really just to, I think, just to be very observant in what they're communicating out, in talking to the people around them, in talking to people above you who might have a lot of access to them and stuff. And I think just building that over time, so that when you start talking to people, one or two levels up the stack, um, you're trying to articulate things and asking them for feedback on whether that's resonating or not. And I think that is just the best way of doing things. And just like everything else in life, I think it's just a process where I remember early on, I was doing a presentation to some director level people here at Microsoft, and I wanted to do like a very very cute analogy, with some cartoons and stuff, and I thought would be a great way to convey an idea. And I'm sure like at a conference or something, it would have been really great, but at that level it wasn't, right? And so my
oh
boss,
no.
yeah, my manager was like, no, 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 you don't want to do something like that. And so that was super. So feedback like that was super helpful to me.
Yeah, that's really really good advice because I have the same issue. Like because I'm in the details,
Mm-hmm.
and my boss, well, is very much zoomed out. Like he
Mm-hmm.
can get into the details if he needs to, but like you said, he is going to be looking more broadly and have many more insights. And so I have to be a little bit more broad
Mm-hmm.
when I'm presenting to him about what are some things I think that he's going to be concerned
Right.
about,
Mm-hmm.
what's important to him. And you're right, that takes time. Like
Yeah.
that takes like understanding where they're coming from,
Mm-hmm.
reading their messages, looking at their emails. And I like your advice about having a mentor, someone that you can maybe even knows that person, where you
Right.
can like share like this is what I want to present. Do you think this is going to work?
And I think it's going back to that empathy. Whether you have empathy for customers and users, but also empathy for your managers, of just articulating. Before I go into a meeting, can I write down the three things that I think that is top of mind for my manager right now, or for my management, or what are the three things that I think is most important, and then you may not need to articulate that. You don't need to go right out in the meeting and say, okay, here's my list of three things. But this is where you could kind of send out feelers and say, I think this item is important to the business, and you can get instant feedback. And if the manager says doesn't even think about it, okay, then that's good. That's a good signal. If the manager says yeah, and starts really getting excited about it, or thinking that yes, this is critical, then I think that's a good signal that you're on the right track. And again, it's one of those things where, I say this just like I would say it's important to get like 5 servings of vegetables a day, right?
Mm.
It's something we all aspire to, but not necessarily something that happens in practice. but something that that I would want to try to do more often.
I like how your preparation process of how you would meet with somebody ahead of time to even share this idea to get a feel for how they think that would actually go over with that person. Do you have any other things that you do if you're like going to be meeting with a senior leader in preparation?
In preparation, also just in senior leadership, just kind of trying to figure out what's been what they're communicating lately, whether it's in a blog post or just some internal emails, or even if meeting people in industry, just kind of like looking at, like you mentioned, looking at LinkedIn profiles, looking at what they've been publishing or what's on their Twitter feed, and just kind of getting things that are just top of mind for them, and just trying to get into getting that empathy where it's like, okay, if I put myself in that person's shoes, what would be most valuable to them? What are things that I could do to be most valuable to them? And I think over the years, that has been helpful, because then people start remembering, oh, you came in and you did this and that was helpful, and so next time I will turn to you first, and then you get more opportunities to be able to make more impact. And I think it's building up on those small things to then grow and have the opportunities to do some of the bigger things.
Can you talk a little bit about your emails, your
Mhm.
messages to executives?
Right.
Because I remember earlier in my career, my emails were very, very long.
Yes.
I shared a lot of detail.
Yes. Yes.
And I was wondering about how you approach it when you're sending a note, that an important message
Right.
you want to get across to somebody that's a senior leader.
Trying to figure this out myself. I tend to be a little bit more verbose and add a little bit more detail. For me, those very, very short emails just seem to be very cold and not very friendly and stuff. But I think those are probably more effective to be very, very short and to the point. And I guess my recommendation is just to see what kind of signals that you're getting. If you're sending this big old long email and you have a point that you're trying to make and the executive is not responding as you had hoped, maybe they're missing something. And so how do you tune it so that next time you get a better response? One of my previous managers had a format for his emails that he sends out when he sends out broadly, or when he sends to management, where it's basically, what am I trying to say? Why do you care? And here are the details. And those formats like that might work for different people. And so I've been experimenting, and I think it's just a continual sense of experimentation.
Thank you so much for checking out this clip from the Data Talk podcast. To watch the full episode, you can either go to the Experian blog. The URL is experian.com/datatalk, or you can click on the link, which is found in the description of this video.